Welcome to A Witch's Heart, the story of a woman who gets burned alive by the gods, shrugs it off, and decides she's had enough divine nonsense for several lifetimes. Before we continue with the story, making our videos takes plenty of caffeine, chaos, and too many snacks, but we love every moment of it. If you enjoy our unhinged humor and dramatic recaps, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps us keep creating more ridiculous, story-driven chaos and tells YouTube we exist. Stick around, join the madness, and help this little corner of the internet grow. Now, back to the story! Angerboda's tale begins exactly the way no one wants theirs to. Tied to a stake while Odin's Aesir try to extract prophecy from her by setting her on fire. Very classy. But despite their enthusiastic arson, Angerboda does what problematic witches do best. She refuses to stay dead. She survives with her memories reduced to ash and flees to the far reaches of the Ironwood, apparently hoping that if she hides deep enough in the wilderness, the universe will forget she exists. Spoiler, it absolutely does not. Enter Loki, the god of questionable decisions and even more questionable timing. He shows up holding her still beating heart. Yes, the one the Aesir cut out, and acts like he's returning a borrowed jacket. Angerboda, unimpressed, tells him to go away. Loki, being constitutionally incapable of respecting boundaries, decides this is the perfect time to become a recurring visitor. While Angerboda rebuilds her life and slowly regains flickers of her past, Loki treats her cave like his new favorite hangout spot. He jokes, shapeshifts, steals food, and generally behaves like a stray cat that refuses to leave once fed, against every warning bell in her head. Angerboda tolerates him. Eventually, she even begins to thaw toward him, because apparently fire-resistant witches are not resistant to charismatic troublemakers. Their bond deepens, and before long, they cross the line from annoying god and exhausted witch to romantic entanglement that will absolutely haunt the next several centuries. It's a relationship built on charm, banter, avoidance of emotional responsibility, and the mutual understanding that this can't possibly end well. When Angerboda becomes pregnant, Loki reacts with that signature mixture of amusement, denial, and chaos. But Angerboda, despite having literally been murdered by gods, dares to imagine a peaceful life hidden away in the Ironwood, a quiet home, a child raised free from Odin's obsession with fate, a future not dictated by prophecy. Unfortunately for her, this is Norse mythology, which means peace is illegal, happiness is taxed at 500%, and any hope of avoiding destiny is laughably optimistic. Angerboda's attempt at cozy motherhood immediately proves the universe has jokes. Her first child, Hel, arrives not screaming, but silently staring into her mother's soul with both human and corpse blue half faces. Loki, to his credit, tries to act like this is all very normal. Angerboda, far more grounded, decides Hel deserves protection from the world, especially from Odin, who loves collecting interesting children for deeply unethical reasons. Their second child, Jormungandr, doesn't politely arrive as a chubby baby, but as a serpent destined to grow so massive, he'll wrap around the world. Loki reacts the way only Loki can. Equal parts terrified and delighted. Angerboda reacts by wondering, perhaps too late, whether having kids with the trickster god of cosmic consequences was a wise choice. Then comes Fenrir, the giant wolf pup with the emotional intensity of a toddler and the jaw strength of an industrial hydraulic press. Angerboda loves him fiercely. Loki swings by occasionally to help, which usually means contributing nothing except chaos and bad jokes. Angerboda raises the children mostly alone, with the help of Skadi, the huntress goddess who, unlike Loki, actually understands responsibility and occasionally acts like the world's grouchiest aunt. As the kids grow, so do Angerboda's prophetic visions, and she does not love what she sees. Hel ruling over the dead, Jormungandr battling Thor in an ocean-shaking brawl, Fenrir breaking free and ripping Odin apart. You know, the kind of future that ruins your morning. She tries to hide the children from fate, but fate, like Loki, has zero respect for boundaries. Odin eventually catches wind of the kids' existence. Loki, being Loki, isn't exactly forthcoming with information or protection. As the section ends, Angerboda realizes that each attempt to avoid prophecy seems to pull her closer to it. She wants nothing more than to keep her children safe, but the gods, destiny, and Loki's inconsistency are all sharpening their knives. The cozy cave life dream already crumbling. This section might as well be titled Angerboda's Life Falls Apart in Slow Motion. The Aesir finally take notice of her and the children, and Odin, being extremely predictable, wants to exert divine control over anything mysterious and powerful. Loki, who should theoretically be helping, becomes increasingly unreliable. His loyalties shift like quicksand, and his excuses are as flimsy as wet parchment. The god sees each child in the most traumatizing ways possible. Hel is taken to rule Niflheim, sentenced to Queen over Corpse's territory because Odin decides that's her place. Jormungandr is tossed into the sea like an unwanted koi fish, left to grow into his apocalyptic destiny. Fenrir, the most loyal of the three, is bound in chains under the guise of a friendly test, only to be trapped with a sword wedged in his jaws. Congratulations, Odin, Father of the Year. Angerboda is shattered. She desperately tries to fight the future, but everything she does seems to concretize the prophecy rather than weaken it. Loki, meanwhile, spirals further into his obligations with the Aesir, slipping away emotionally and physically. When he eventually fathers children with Sigyn, Angrboda's trust in him collapses completely. Shocking? No one. Angrboda turns fully inward, reclaiming her magic and forging her own identity separate from Loki. But the prophecies intensify, each version showing Ragnarok creeping closer. Skadi remains a constant presence, comforting in her blunt, icy way. And the two develop an increasingly intimate bond built not on chaos, but on respect and survival. Angrboda learns that running from the future is pointless. The best she can do is prepare for the unavoidable and protect the people she still can. The section ends with her realizing that Loki is now fully entangled with the Aesir, her children are scattered and suffering, and the world is barreling toward the apocalypse she tried so hard to prevent. But don't worry, it gets worse. With her children essentially drafted into cosmic disaster roles, Angrboda devotes her life to trying to change their fates. Spoiler: fate remains spectacularly uncooperative. Her visions give her glimpses of Ragnarok. The fire, the blood, the betrayals, the giant serpent vomiting poison at Thor. Basically the worst family reunion imaginable. Loki re-enters her life sporadically, but every visit feels like talking to a man who's halfway out the door and halfway lying about why. His ties to the Aesir tighten, his recklessness grows, and his emotional availability hovers just above zero. But Angrboda sees clearly that he's becoming the Loki the myths warn about. The instigator, the betrayer, the doomsday catalyst. Meanwhile, Angrboda and Skadi grow closer in a way that is both tender and grounded. Their relationship is built on actual mutual support, a refreshing departure from Loki's chaos tornado of half-truths. But even with Skadi at her side, Angrboda senses her time is limited. Her magic tells her that her children's destinies are fixed points in time, not because she's powerless, but because they are necessary to the world's cycle. The end must come for a beginning to follow. She hates it, but she accepts it with the kind of exhausted resignation only a mother of literal world enders can muster. The tension between Angrboda and Loki reaches a breaking point. She confronts him about his choices, and he gives her excuses wrapped in riddles, wrapped in emotional avoidance. Classic. Ultimately, their relationship fractures completely, leaving Angrboda with a mix of heartbreak, rage, and I should have seen this coming. As embers of Ragnarok flicker on the horizon, Angrboda makes a final attempt to secure a future for the world beyond destruction. She prepares to take drastic action, not to stop the apocalypse, but to ensure that something can survive it. Because if the gods won't protect her children, she will, even if it costs her everything. Ragnarok arrives not with gentle warnings, but with a catastrophic boom. Surt's flames sweep across the realms, gods die dramatically, monsters fulfill their destinies, and Angrboda watches her children play their dreadful roles on the battlefield. Hell commands the dead with cold conviction. Jormungandr unleashes his venomous fury upon Thor. Fenrir finally snaps his bonds and ends Odin's tyrannical reign in a single, gloriously symbolic bite. It is every nightmare Angrboda ever had, now happening in real time. Meanwhile, Loki, who has spent the entire book towing the line between ally and antagonist, finally embraces his fate. He confronts Heimdall in a battle destined to end in mutual destruction. Angrboda's grief is complicated. She once loved him, hates what he became, and understands that even he is trapped in the machinery of prophecy. Amid the chaos, Angrboda attempts to save what she can: knowledge, memory, and the possibility of a future reborn. She takes drastic action, using the remnants of her magic to hide her heart, the literal heart Loki once returned to her, the symbol of her resilience. By preserving it, she preserves herself, ensuring she can return after the end. The world collapses into smoke and silence. Then, against all expectation, Angrboda awakens in a new cycle of the world, resurrected through the heart she safeguarded. She is found by Skadi, who survived as well, and the two begin a quiet life built on new beginnings rather than past tragedies. The gods are gone, the monsters fulfilled their destinies, and the world is ready to be reshaped. Angrboda has lost much, but she has reclaimed herself. She is no longer the witch burned by Odin, the lover caught in Loki's whirlwind, or the mother desperately trying to defy prophecy. She is simply Angrboda. Powerful, reborn, and finally free. And the universe, for once, decides to let her keep that peace. So, what did you think of the witch's heart? Did the emotional trauma nourish your soul? Did the gods irritate you on a spiritual level? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to aggressively agree or disagree from behind my screen. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because if Angrboda had that kind of support, maybe she wouldn't have been set on fire on page 1. And seriously, if a shape-shifting chaos gremlin ever shows up offering to return your still-beating heart, run fast. Preferably in the opposite direction of prophecy, gods, or family-friendly mythological content. Thanks for watching, and may your life be far less messy, apocalyptic, and Loki-adjacent than hers.